Have you ever spent hours trying to solve something in your head, only for the answer to arrive halfway through a walk? You weren't trying harder, you weren't analyzing the problem more intelligently, you were simply moving. We tend to treat moments like that as coincidence, but they're not. Movement changes the brain and the body that you're solving the problem with. It changes your attention, it affects your mood, and it interrupts repetitive thinking. It can lower the sense of threat around a problem and help you see options that didn't appear while you were sitting still staring at the same screen. But there's another part around this that we tend to miss. Not all movement does the same thing. The kind of movement you need when you feel anxious can be completely different than the kind of movement you need when you feel flat or angry or completely overwhelmed. So in this video, I want to discuss why movement can change your mind so quickly and how to choose the kind of movement that will fit the state that you're in. Because sometimes changing your mind starts with moving your body. Most of us have been trained to treat mental discomfort as an intellectual problem. So when something feels kind of off, we ask, why do I feel like this? What does it mean? What should I do? What did that person mean? What if I do something wrong? Reflection is valuable and insight matters, but there's a point where reflection just becomes rumination. You are no longer discovering anything new. You're walking through the same mental corridor, opening the same doors and expecting a different room to appear behind them. Your mind becomes like a dog with a slipper. It keeps chewing the same thing until there's nothing left to extract from it. This is one of the reasons that movement can help. It breaks the closed loop. When you walk, swim, run, dance, or move through a yoga practice, your mind has to engage with something beyond the thought. It has to process balance, direction, space, sensation, rhythm, and the environment around you. Your attention becomes less trapped inside your own narration. You haven't necessarily solved the problem yet, but you're not feeding it every ounce of your attention, and often that is the first shift you need. When you are stressed, your mind tends to narrow. You become more focused on threats, mistakes, unfinished tasks, and everything that could go wrong. A small issue begins to occupy the whole room. You see this in ordinary life. You've been sitting behind the desk for hours. You're tired, and you've read the same email 6 times. You begin to read criticism in a sentence that might not contain any, and a decision that felt manageable that morning now feels impossible. At that point, continuing to stare at your screen may not produce better thinking. It may produce more of the same thinking. And then you step outside. You walk for 15 minutes. You notice the temperature, the movement of your legs, a dog doing something ridiculous, the sky, the fact that the entire world has continued despite that email. And then all of a sudden the size of the problem changes. It may still matter and you may still need to respond. But it's no longer the only thing your brain can see. Movement widens the frame. That's often what people mean when they say they can think more clearly after a walk. It's not that they've escaped reality, but they've regained perspective within it. You don't emerge from the walk with the flute playing in a completely new personality. You simply stop feeling as though your current thought is the entire universe. Movement changes more than just attention. There's also a physical reason that you feel different after movement. Exercise and physical activity affect processes involved in mood, stress regulation, alertness, and cognitive function. Muscle activity changes circulation and sends signals throughout the body. Over time, regular movement also supports the brain's ability to adapt, learn, and respond to stress. You do not need to memorize a list of neurotransmitters to understand the important part. Movement creates a real biological change. The shift you feel after a walk or a swim, a yoga practice or a workout is not imaginary, and it's not a failure of willpower that you cannot create this shift by sitting still, telling yourself to feel better. You gave your system a different input, and it responded. This is also why movement is much bigger than just appearance or fitness. A workout isn't only something you do to change the appearance of your body. Movement changes the quality of the hour that follows after. It can change the conversation you're about to have, the way you interpret a problem, the amount of emotional weight you add to a difficult moment. That is a significant effect for something as simple as going for a walk. This is where the conversation gets interesting. People often talk about exercise as though any movement is automatically good for any mental state. That's a bit too simplistic. The movement that helps depends on what's happening within you. Imagine you are already highly anxious. Your heart is racing. You feel overstimulated and close to panic. A high-intensity, brutal workout might help some people discharge some of that energy. For someone else, it might add activation to a system that is already feeling overwhelmed. Now imagine you feel numb, heavy, maybe unable to start anything. A slow and soothing practice may feel pleasant, but it might not bring enough energy into your body to shift from that state. You might need music, stronger movement, sunlight, or something that asks a little more of you. Regulation isn't always about becoming calmer. Sometimes you need to settle, sometimes you need to wake up, sometimes you need to express force, sometimes you need rhythm, sometimes you need to feel your feet and orientate towards the room around you. The goal isn't to force every emotional state into tranquility. The goal is to bring movement into where you are stuck. So let's make this practical. If you feel mentally stuck or caught in repetitive thinking, try going for a walk. Preferably without filling the entire walk with a podcast or a voice note or a phone call. Let your attention interact with the world again. Walking is simple enough that thoughts can continue to move, but engaging enough that they don't hold any grip on you. This is why people have walked to think for centuries. If you feel restless, irritated, or full of excess energy, rhythmic movement might help. Running, cycling, swimming, dancing, or a repetitive strength session can give that activation a direction. There's a reason walk it off became a phrase. Sometimes the body needs somewhere constructive to put its momentum. If you feel flat, numb, or frozen, you might need movement with a bit more energy. Put on music. Step outside, lift something, shake your arms. Move faster than your mood is asking you to. You don't need to punish yourself. You're just offering your system a stronger signal. If you feel overwhelmed or scattered, choose movement that is predictable. Slow walking, gentle yoga, mobility work, repetitive movements that you already know. This is probably not the moment to learn a complicated dance sequence from the internet and become furious at your own elbows. Keep it simple enough that your body doesn't have another problem to solve. If you feel angry, physical efforts can often help you work with the energy before you speak from it. Push, pull, carry, climb, run, or lift. Anger often contains activation. Giving that activation a safe physical expression can create the space needed to decide what you actually want to say. If you feel tired, be honest about what kind of tiredness it is. Movement can help to restore energy, but sometimes the kindest and the wisest thing is just sleep. Not every difficult feeling is asking for a workout. The purpose isn't to use movement to avoid yourself. It's to understand that the body can participate in helping to care for yourself. There's another experience that people notice during movement, especially during slower movements like yoga practices. You begin moving, stretching, holding a pose, and all of a sudden an emotion appears. Sometimes sadness, irritation, relief, occasionally tears appear without an invitation. People often describe this as saying that stress or an emotion is stored in a specific body part, especially the hips. I would be careful about taking that phrase too literally. There is not a tidy map where grief lives in one muscle and fear rents a small flat beside your left hip flexor. But emotions do have a physical expression. Stress affects muscle tension, posture, energy, breathing patterns, and the way we inhabit our bodies. When you slow down and pay attention to the sensations in the body, you may start noticing what constantly being busy had stopped you from noticing. A pose may not be extracting a neatly packaged emotion from the hip. It may simply be creating the conditions in which you feel that which was already present, and that is still meaningful. Not everything that surfaces during movement needs to be analyzed immediately. Sometimes it just needs to be noticed, allowed, and moved through. I also want to be clear that movement doesn't have to become another area of pressure. It doesn't have to be impressive. It doesn't need to be measured, posted, perfected, or converted into evidence that you are a disciplined person. Modern life has this extraordinary ability to turn anything nourishing into admin. A walk becomes a step target, yoga becomes a flexibility test, running becomes a pace. Restorative movement has become yet another thing that you fail to do before breakfast. But the body doesn't only benefit from movement that looks productive. 10 minutes counts. Stretching on the floor counts. Walking around the block counts. Dancing badly in the kitchen counts. Taking the stairs while muttering about the lift counts. Don't just ask yourself, was this enough to change my fitness? Rather ask yourself, did this change the state that I am in? The next time you notice yourself circling the same thought, try a small experiment. Don't immediately demand an answer from your mind. Stand up. Choose 10 minutes of movement that fits your state. Walk if you're mentally stuck. Move rhythmically if you're restless. Choose stronger movement if you feel flat. Slow down and orientate yourself to your surroundings if you feel overwhelmed. Then come back to the problem. Notice if it's the same size. Notice if there's anything that you can see now that you couldn't see before. Notice whether you're responding to the actual situation or if you were rather responding to the state that you were in. This doesn't mean that every problem can just be walked away. Some problems require action, grief, difficult decisions and conversations and boundaries. But you deserve to meet those problems with more than one internal resource. You are allowed to involve the whole body in this process of finding your way through life. We often assume that clarity must arrive as a thought, but sometimes clarity arrives as a change in pace, a longer stride, a stronger heartbeat, the sensation of your feet meeting the ground, the world returning around you after an hour trapped inside a single concern. Movement doesn't always give you the answer. Sometimes it does something just as important. It gives you back enough of yourself to meet the question differently. So the next time your mind is chewing the same thought to pieces, don't just assume that the solution is hiding one thought deeper. Stand up, move for 10 minutes, then see who returns to the problem. What kind of movement have you noticed changes your mind most reliably? Let me know in the comments, and subscribe if you are interested in more grounded conversations on the nervous system, movement, yoga, breath, and what it means to live well inside the human body.